What's going on? Look at DCD Podcast, episode number 23. As always, I'm Andy. He's Alex. Let's get this. How was your week, Alex?
Pretty good. Busy, but good. So, yeah, normal work week. So that's 40 plus hours down the drain. But hey, at least you get paid for it, right? In terms of content, yeah. I always try to, I don't know if you do this, compartmentalize my life between content creation, which is a hobby, and work, which is work.
Content creation's, number one for me.
I would question that for a number of reasons, but yeah, man. Well, I put
months into that video I posted a week ago.
Really?
No.
No, it was a good video though. It was a good video, yeah. But I mean, work's been
doing more. Not to interrupt you.
I mean, I would watch them. I mean, I miss the ATH channel. I miss the ATH2 channel. I miss the Andy Halsey channel. I miss the movie review channel, which I forget. I think that was the one that was Andy Halsey. You had 4 channels at one point. And it was hard to keep up with which one had which, but they were all in my sub feed, so I would watch them, yeah. So, work, standard work stuff, content creation's been a little bit slow because I just haven't had the time to do it, which sucks. I mean, that's one of the biggest things I always tell people. When you have, a real 9-to-5 job, finding time for that content creation is pretty darn hard. So, how was your week, Andy? How is Dr. Thunder? Because Andy's
Dr. Thunder's fantastic.
Yeah, Andy's drinking some Dr. Thunder, which I believe. Oh, is that the Walmart variant of Dr. Pepper?
It's actually not Dr. Thunder what I'm drinking. This is an old can. I was sitting on my desk.
I'm
drinking the greatest soda of all time. Sam's Cola.
Sam's Cola. There you go.
Yeah, I don't know. Walmart brand. Maybe.
I drank a lot of that as a kid.
Sam's Cola?
Yeah. You ever drink RC Cola?
Nah. RC Cola trash. Sam's Cola all the way.
That's effed up, dude. I actually know a guy. Well, I don't really know a guy. It's Ashley's grandfather worked in the RC Cola plant here in Orlando for years.
Is it on the dad's side?
No, it's on Ashley's mom's side.
If it was Walter's dad, then I would turn to an RC Cola man.
Well, I'll tell you this much. Walter's dad, nice guy, okay? Mr. Lewis, if you're out there and you're ever listening to this podcast, nothing but respect, man. Big ups to you. That dude is legit martial arts god in the Jacksonville area.
Martial arts god?
Yeah, he is. No, you go to his house, it's like a shrine.
Yeah.
He was one of the most accomplished martial artists in the Jacksonville area. He has a room full of trophies, awards, pictures. Everybody in the Jacksonville area that has anything to do with martial arts knows who Mr. Lewis is. And the guy's still hardcore. And he tried to scare me, and I didn't jump. I was proud of myself that I didn't jump. He has, a cane. I didn't even know they sell these. He has a cane that you hit a button, and at the end of it, it's a taser. He owns one of those, and he likes to break it out and scare people with it.
Cattle prod?
Yeah, but it's so low key, man. And that's what was cool about it, because he breaks out this cane, and he's like, "Oh yeah, look at this cane," and then, it was really close to my leg, and he hits the button, and the taser at the bottom goes off. Scared the hell out of me, but I didn't jump, so I was proud of myself.
Reminds me of if you want to watch a good parody of Jackass, might have to bleep that, but it's a name of something, so I don't know.
No, don't have to bleep it.
Kenny Rogers Jackass.
Yeah.
It's a parody. Someone acting like Kenny Rogers. It's pretty good.
Have you ever been tased?
No.
No.
I mean, I've got the good old gum trick, you want to stick a gum. Or the pen. Not like a taser.
Yeah. See, I've never been tased. I've known people that got tased, and they always tell me that you either defecate yourself or you urinate all over yourself, or both. So I would imagine it's a pretty unpleasant experience. I got really close. But how was your week, Andy? I'm sorry, Dr. Thunder.
Going back to the original point. After all this, it's spring break, so I'm quite busy. Yeah.
Andy hanging out at beaches with the ladies. That's how I like to imagine Andy's spring break.
The opposite. Andy hanging out at work, not having a good time.
Quite the opposite. Would be like Andy hanging out at work with a bunch of dudes. Like smelly dudes, too.
There's more chicks that work there than you'd think.
Really? I would assume it'd be a pretty good mix at a movie theater, right? Mostly younger people. I would assume it's mostly younger people because it's kind of like retail.
Yeah, really?
Really?
They have maybe 4 high schoolers out of 50 employees.
Okay. Well, I'm talking about young adults.
No, it's 50-50 between 30 plus, or I would say 26 plus, 26 under.
Really?
Yeah.
That's surprising to me.
Speaking of cool. The mixed martial arts god, I see Sekiro in the background.
Sekiro, yeah, man.
Are we seeing a stream of that here soon?
It's probably gonna be a series, but might be a stream. I don't know. I think that game specifically would be better for a series, kind of like the Dark Souls series that I did. I did a Dark Souls series, and it did pretty well, and it was a lot of fun to make. Yeah. And I had a lot of fun, honestly, just getting consistently killed by that game. But it made for some fun videos. I'm a little sad I didn't finish Dark Souls 3, but I feel like Sekiro is something that I might be able to finish. And I feel a little bit more committed to it because it's the first in the series and all that. And also, just complete sidebar here before we jump into topics or talk more about Andy's week. I appreciate that it's a single-player game where they said, we just want a really good single-player experience. That's really cool. And I wish there was more stuff out there like that because not everything has to be multiplayer. What's that little fist pump for?
Warriors are whooping Lakers' booty.
Okay. Well, yeah. Yeah, Lakers, that situation's quickly unraveling.
They're up 14-4, and I have quite a bit of money on the Warriors winning by 14. So... 14 or more. Not exactly 14.
You're still gambling, huh?
Oh, yeah.
That's cool. I mean, if
really
there's
good at turning $20 into $100 and that $100 into nothing.
I mean, if there's one person
really good at that.
Yeah, but I mean, if there's one person who I think probably could gamble and do well at it, it'd be you. Because I mean, you know sports, you watch the games.
Really good at something you wouldn't expect. I know nothing about it, but I make a lot of money betting on international basketball.
Yeah.
Every day I wake up, look at the international basketball schedule, and I'll bet on CSK Moscow or Real Madrid or Barcelona. And I've lost 2 bets out of 20, 30 bets.
I wouldn't even know where to start, man.
I just bet on random teams.
Well, it's funny. When you go to, I don't know if they even have them in your area because you're not really you're kind of landlocked in Kentucky. But here in Florida, they have these little boats, casino boats, and they basically repurpose. I think they're old cruise ships that they repurpose, and they empty them out, give them a little bit of a facelift, and then before you know it, they got slot machines and blackjack tables and all that. So, yeah, every once in a while, I can convince Ashley, you get a Groupon. Shout out to Groupon. We're not sponsored by Groupon, but Groupon, if you want to, sponsor the podcast, you can feel free to reach out to me. We're deadchannelduo@gmail.com if you want to sponsor us. But every once in a while, we'll get a Groupon. And for $30, me and Ashley can get out there. They give you a free all-you-can-eat buffet and $15 worth of chips. And I'll go down to the sports book, and there will be little British ladies down there. Just betting on basketball. And you're they don't know anything about basketball. They just pick a team. So, and oh no, Andy left. I guess my story was a little bit too long-winded. My main point in all of it was going to be that if Andy ever comes back to Florida, we should go on one of those casino boats and hang out in the sports book and drink.
Well, I didn't hear like the last bit of that.
Okay.
Because Discord crapped out. But
well,
I'm not 21.
Oh, that's true. You're not 21 yet, so you can't do it.
This podcast comes out my 20th birthday, so.
Oh.
Don't wish me a happy birthday, because I'm not going to wish you one back.
Everybody tweet Andy and wish him a happy birthday. I always do it, and I don't care. And he's always like,
You're
I'm not going to
get one back.
I don't care.
I'm not going to wish you a happy birthday.
I don't care. I like you, Andy. I care about you as a person, and I want you to know that I think about you on your special day there, buddy.
Dude, my friend tweeted, his birthday's like a week ago. Like, our birthday's a week apart. He tweeted at midnight, I'm 20 now. Mm-hmm. And I responded with, F off, go to bed, because it was 12 in the morning.
Ouch.
And then he deleted the tweet, so I got a good laugh out of that. But
I mean, to you it's funny. To everybody else, you feel like a buzzkill. So.
That was my former roommate, so.
Oh. Yeah, well, if he's out there listening, big ups to him. Not. Okay, well.
He's probably playing Fortnite and
Fortnite.
Some more Fortnite.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe some more Fortnite.
Well, hey, man, we got a couple new listeners this week. I'll tell you that much. I was looking at the podcast numbers this afternoon, and I noticed that there were 2 people. So shout out to them. I don't know who you are, but I want to give you a shout out and welcome aboard, who went back and downloaded every single episode of the podcast. So, like, it was very, it was like one across the board all the way down.
Think that Sphinx got a trap phone and downloaded all the podcasts.
Sphinx has a burner phone.
He has 2 burners. Yeah. He just downloaded all the podcasts.
And like it's like a Samsung Galaxy S2 or something, like whatever.
It's a like one of the OG BlackBerry touches.
Oh jeez. Yeah, jeez. I was a BlackBerry guy, man. I was a hardcore BlackBerry guy back in the day, and I miss BlackBerry. So I never owned the Razor. I owned cheap burner phones all the way up until a company called Helio came out, and they made smartphones that they were trying to compete with the iPhone. It didn't really work, and they were rolling out their own cell service where what they would do is they would lease Sprint towers. And I was on Helio for a couple of years, and I really loved those phones, and I miss them. But then after that, I went to BlackBerry. And then after that, and I had a ton of BlackBerries. I had a Curve 8330. I had a Tor 9630, the Storm 1, the Storm 2, BlackBerry 9700, BlackBerry 9900. I had a bunch of them. And then went to Android. BlackBerry died, and now I'm an iPhone guy because of my wife.
I've been an iPhone guy since the 3rd one.
Yeah, I've been an iPhone guy since so I got an LG Android phone. It was like the top of the line LG phone when we switched to T-Mobile, and my wife got her iPhone 7 Plus. No, I'm sorry, iPhone 6 Plus. And I remember holding that, and I was like, I don't want this LG anymore. So we took it back to T-Mobile that day, and I ordered a iPhone 6 Plus. And I rocked a Windows phone for like 2 weeks while I waited for it. So anyway, enough about all that. Let's get into some listener questions for the week. We can go through these pretty quick. And if you want to give us a listener question, you can always reach out to us on Twitter. Or you can leave us a voicemail at 802-448-4DCD. You can just call that number. It'll automatically go to voicemail, and you can leave us a question. We did get one voicemail this week. But, yeah, believe it or not, we did get a voicemail, and I was really excited because I was like, oh, awesome. It's the first listener voicemail question. Because we get a bunch of them on Twitter, but nobody ever calls the number. And I listened to the voicemail, and it was like, kind of like this robotic male voice, and it goes, hello, we are reaching out to you about your car's extended warranty. It is about to expire. So I deleted it. And then the next day, I kid you not, the next day, I log into the voicemail account again, and I go, no way, there's a voicemail on here. So I click on the notification, and I'm like, oh, this number looks kind of familiar. Play the voicemail. Hello, we are reaching out to you.
You should have played it on the show.
Yeah,
you should have brought it to the show. Like, not like re-screened it or anything.
Yeah.
We got a booster question. Hello.
Yeah.
Your car insurance.
Yeah, it was like, how did they get this number? Like, that number has sat vacant forever. But anyway, if you do want to leave us a question, like I said, you can reach out to us on Twitter. You could call 802-448-4DCD. Long distance rates may apply. Anyway, first question comes from @DumbestSphinx on Twitter, who we were talking about earlier. He's probably the guy with the burner phone leaving extended warranty messages on our voicemail. He asks us, "What's your favorite cut of steak?" Andy, what's your favorite? Actually, I think I know this answer. I want to see if I'm right on this. I think Andy's going to say none because I don't think he likes steak.
It's not true.
Okay.
But I don't have a favorite steak because chicken's better.
Okay. So, Andy, I guess, likes them all equally. I'm a little bit more of a steak connoisseur. Okay, I eat a lot of steak. And if you listen to my streams or any of my... Yeah, I do eat a lot of chicken too. I'm a big meat eater. And if I had to pick a favorite cut of steak, I would tell you it's a porterhouse. If you can get a thick porterhouse, it's a good cut. If you get the real thin porterhouse, it's a waste of a porterhouse. And you always want to get a steak that's about an inch or thicker. I like about an inch and a quarter thick porterhouse. It's real good. You get the layering, you grill it real nice, season it up real nice, put a little butter sauce on it to finish with. It's a Gordon Ramsay technique that I picked up that works exceptionally well.
I mean, you put butter on everything.
Well, it's a light butter sauce to kind of finish it, and it's a garlic butter with some seasoning, like a little bit of cayenne and things of that nature. We throw that on there, and you basically, you just kind of layer the steak with a little bit of it. It's iced chalky milk time for Andy and bedtime as well. So yeah, Ashley makes this garlic butter sauce, and it's real lightly seasoned. You just kind of spread it on the steak and finish it 30 seconds on each side after you cook it. I like my steaks rare. Porterhouse would be my favorite cut. It's got to be about an inch and a quarter thick. I will also tell you that a really thick New York strip would be a close number 2 for me, and then number 3 would be a ribeye. But they're all good. Thank you to @DumbestSphinx for the question. Also, thank you to @DumbestSphinx for being a longtime listener of the podcast. So, big ups to you.
Now, this is relevant information for our listeners.
Yeah.
But they're currently up 31-8.
Well, there you go. That bet's looking better and better, isn't it?
Yeah. Make that money, big dog.
Yeah. Next question here comes from @Colbster409. Most of you guys know him as Colby. He says, "Hi, Cowboys fan here. For both of you, what was the most comedic event to ever take place in your life?" Andy, I'll let you lead off.
And this one may have some bleeps in it later on in the story.
Oh, no.
But, so it's like middle school.
Mm-hmm.
Me and my buds used to... So we used to, have a bunch, like, we had like sleepovers where a bunch of dudes would go over to, like, one dude's house and spend the night. And, we called these fests a short form version of the term sausage fest because there's no females going to these things.
Mm-hmm.
So I had fest at this one dude's house. And, he has an upstairs bathroom. And we had, this one guy on the chubbier side, not saying anything because I'm fat. But he went to the bathroom, and then he, like, a couple minutes pass, Then he comes out and he goes, "Hey, I'm not gonna say their actual names, so I'm just gonna say, hey, Reese. So the toilet's overflowing, the upstairs toilet's overflowing. So we check it. The floor is like flooded with poo water." And it smelled so bad. And then Reese's parents weren't home at the time, so he had to call up his parents, and they were like at church or something. They were mad. They drove home, and so it smelled awful. Like the whole upstairs is bad. So we went downstairs, and right under the upstairs bathroom is the kitchen. It's dripping from a light fixture onto the kitchen counter, this poo water. So we put this like Chick-fil-A party platter thing on the bottom to catch the poo water. Then we go outside. We wait like 20 minutes, and his parents finally show up. And every time, this always gets me a good chuckle whenever I think about it. His dad's like 60 years old. He's an old man. He runs up the stairs, looks in the bathroom, and goes, "Damn it." I just think it's the funniest thing ever. You're going to have to bleep that. But that's a funny one. For me, at least. I don't know how funny it is for you guys.
I mean, it is funny to me because I'm just picturing just poo water everywhere, you know?
Oh, yeah. All over the place.
Yeah. For some reason, the idea of poo water is hilarious to me.
What's your most comedic moment?
Some people find this funny and some people don't, depending on, I guess, how you view things, what lens you're looking at it through. So when I was in high school and I was a younger, more reckless version of myself, I may or may not have, and I will not name my alleged accomplice in this, but I may or may not have gotten some spray paint and spray painted a bunch of police squad cars. So they didn't have like gates or a facility where like you had to check in to get access to these police vehicles. They just parked them in a parking lot. So it was one of these like satellite police radio stations. So I was angry for a reason that I won't go into.
F12.
Yeah. And it was probably about midnight. So I sneak out, going through the woods, get to this satellite police station. Me and my accomplice spray paint all the back of the cop cars, everyone that we could get our hands on. Spray paint the back bumper, oink oink, and then on the hood, my accomplice drew a very crude in spray paint pig on the hood of the car. And what made it funny to me is it was the talk of the town for a week, because they can't exactly just stop driving the squad cars, right? Yeah. So for like a week, they're driving around these cop cars. They all say oink oink oink.
That's good,
because they can only get like one fixed at a time because they need all the cars. And we got them all, man. We got them all. We spray painted over the security camera, all that.
Yeah.
And I just remember, and the reason I would call it the most comedic event of my life is I think sometimes, and I know a lot of people have probably gone through something similar. You do something, you realize it's reckless, you realize it's stupid, but you get away with it. And because you get away with it, you just can't believe your luck, and you just start laughing hysterically. And I remember running away. I couldn't believe that we didn't get caught. And I remember looking back, looking at the work that we had done. I call it work. And then I just remember running as fast as I could back through the woods, laughing hysterically, and I just threw up. I just could not stop laughing. Yeah. So that would be the most comedic event. I can't say that it tops poo water and some angry dad coming home from church and cursing at me.
It's like the fun. Him like just running up the stairs, looking in the bathroom. God.
I love it, dude.
I have two follow-ups. It reminded me of we had this thing after graduation of my high school.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm being dumb. This is before this. Our senior prank. So, the delinquents in my grade, class of 17, represent. We vandalized the whole school. I wasn't a part of this. There was like swastikas and penis spray painted on like the windows and on the concrete. There's a video of this dude. We had a rent-a-cop. That's what we called him, or like a cop that just like stay at the school.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
There's a video of a guy standing on top of the hood pissing on it. So we vandalized the whole school. No one got in trouble.
I mean,
Similar.
You can only arrest so many people, you know?
Oh, no one got in trouble.
Well, that's kind of surprising.
There's camera footage of everyone doing this, and no one got in trouble.
Yeah.
And my friend told me a good comedic event that happened to him this past week that I thought was pretty funny. So he's like an after-school assistant at a middle school or an elementary school, one or the other. I don't remember. And this teacher was talking about the word definitely. And she's like, what does definitely actually mean? And this one kid goes, the sky is definitely blue.
Mm-hmm.
She goes, it's not definitely blue because sometimes it can be orange or gray, depending on like how the sun is and all that. Then someone said, the grass is definitely green.
Mm-hmm.
She says, well, the grass can be brown or in Kentucky, bluegrass. And this one kid goes, are farts definitely lumpy? And she goes, no. Then he goes, I definitely poop my pants then.
In a weird way, it works. Like, it does actually convey what definitely means. Yeah, I got into a lot of, like, I did a lot of pranking when I was a kid. You know, like, another thing that stuck out, and I almost listed this as the funniest moment in my life, because to this day, people that I went to school with will remind me of this. And this is probably not something that's so great for the hashtag Me Too era, but you have to remember, this is a 13-year-old Alex who wasn't doing this to sneak a little peep. It was more, I thought it would be hilarious. So I found out that at my school, you could punch out one of the ceiling tiles, like basically lift it up, slide it over. I think you said this on stream before. Yeah. And so sorry if you listen to the streams, you know what I'm talking about. But I found out that there was like a wall that you could climb and you could kind of walk around through the false ceiling. So I lift up one of the ceiling tiles and I realize it's basically a portal, if you will, to the girls' bathroom. So they were all in there changing for PE. I lift the ceiling tile and I just go head first. So on their end, they just see my head poking through the ceiling and I go, hey, what's up? And everybody started running out screaming. I got in so much trouble at school. Like, I got detention. They sent a note home to my mom, all that. Got a long talking to about, like, what was funny is my mom, like, was mad about it, but kind of laughed at the same time. Like, I'm sure a lot of you guys have that happen where, like, your parents mad at you, but they can't help but laugh because it's kind of a funny situation. So, don't do that. Be respectful of women out there if you're listening. I was young and women. I was young and dumb.
I just imagined.
Yeah.
Whenever you like pop through, you went, "Hey, what's up, guys? Peter Jaguar's here."
Could I hit this ceiling tile from the back? It's a little glitchy. I love Peter Jaguars. But yeah, thanks, Colbster, for the question. Thanks for being a long-time listener as well, Colby.
Yeah.
And like I said, you can tweet us or call us at 802-4484-DCD. Leave us a voicemail with your listener question. So, moving on to entertainment. This week was a little bit light in terms of video game news. Couldn't really come up with anything. I do have one topic that I forgot to put in the show notes that I'll quickly touch on after this. But Borderlands 3 released a trailer this week. Apparently,
I'm currently watching the trailer.
Is it coming out in November of this year? Is that correct, or is it September? I want to say it's fall this year. Yeah, so they released a trailer, and it was trending on Twitter. That's usually a positive sign, and for a good reason. People I did not know how big Borderlands was. Like,
It's released September 13th, 2018.
there you go. I can already see some people like stopping Madden 20 to play that. But yeah, man, like I didn't realize how big Borderlands was. When the first one came out, I was working at GameStop. Same thing with the second one. And
Me too, brother.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I didn't realize they were that big of a game, but it seems like every single person I know that plays video games is excited about Borderlands 3, so I'm looking forward to it. The question I put on here is, how much did you enjoy the first two games? I did not play either one of them to completion, and I probably put about 3 hours into the first Borderlands. So
I mastered the all achievements in the first one.
Ooh.
So I put some time into it.
That's considerable time.
Collectibles and all the side missions and all that.
Yeah.
The second game, I played for like 3 hours. So I really enjoyed the first one. The second one, I don't know. Will I play the third one? Probably not. I'm just gonna be honest.
Yeah. You know, like sometimes, and I would love to hear what Andy's answer is. Sometimes I look at a series and I go, I wish I had gotten into that. And now it's kind of, yeah. So like Borderlands would probably be one of these game series that I would say that about. But the one that really I regret the most is Assassin's Creed. I never got into Assassin's Creed. I played the first one.
Played the one you own, Black Flag. The first one's awful.
The very first Assassin's Creed? It had some problems.
It's very repetitive.
It is very repetitive. And they
fixed that in later games.
They shored that up apparently starting with the second one specifically was what I was told. But by that point I was so far gone and I had moved on to other things. Yeah.
If I would recommend, like, 2 is arguably the best, but at this point it's just too, I hate to say this about games, but it's just too old.
Yeah. In
the fact that it didn't age well. But Black Flag, you should definitely try that one out. Or you can try the newer ones. It's more of an RP, or it's more of a more of an RPG. I was saying, all right.
Yeah, I actually own some digital, some physical. I actually own 4 Assassin's Creed games, and I have never played any of them.
I would recommend Black Flag.
Yeah, well, I own it. It came with the second Xbox that I purchased that I eventually sold, but I did redeem that code before I sold it. Is there like a game series that you can think of, Andy, that you just kind of regret not getting into?
Regret? No. I don't care.
No. Well. I was hoping you'd say World of Warcraft, but I guess not.
No. God, no.
Yeah. So, next segment here. Oh, by the way, before we move on from video games, did you see the Anthem article that came out?
No.
Boy, that was depressing. I encourage you to check that out.
What?
It's illuminating as far as what happened with Anthem. Like, a lot of BioWare employees were burnt out, kind of hit that creative roadblock, if you will, and
laid off a bunch of people this week.
Yeah, that's a tough one, man. That's a tough one. Some of the people that they laid off, a lot of them were in marketing. I hate to see that.
Yeah.
I really do mean that. I know there's a meme out there where people say hate to see that and they're joking, but like I really hate to see anybody lose their job. And well, I think the biggest loss that I can really relate to is Mutt Guru, or aka Mike McFadden, getting let go. I wasn't really a big fan of his. What do you mean?
I thought he got let go like close to a year ago.
No, you see what happened is, you're right. He did get let go. I want to say it was almost 2 years ago. And everybody in the community was like, no, they need to bring him back. You know, like there was this big thing on Twitter. And it was maybe about a month later and they did bring him back. And this time, you know, he'd been kind of shuffled around a little bit. He'd been reassigned a couple times. But he was still a pretty persistent part of the Madden community. Yeah. And what I will say about Mike McFadden is this. I was not a big fan of his personally. There were some things that he would tweet out and some things that he had done that made me go, I don't like the way this guy views the community. But what I will say is he was a huge advocate for that community. And there were many, 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 many good things that he had done for the Madden community and the Madden fan base as a whole. And anytime you lose an advocate like that, I think it's a huge negative. And I really hope that EA rethinks things and brings the guy back. But I don't know. I've been saying the same thing about God, I wish I could remember the guy's name at the moment. It's like on the tip of my tongue.
Oldenburger?
But no, not Oldenburg. It's a guy who left right before Madden 19.
You know a fun fact about Clint Oldenburger?
Yeah.
The Patriots traded him for Randy Moss.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Did not know that at all. But I'm trying to remember the guy's name, but he was a really big...
Clint Oldenburg.
It's not Clint Oldenburg. That guy has complete tunnel vision. I think, unfortunately, he doesn't realize how poorly the Madden game comes across sometimes. And I think to put your head in the sand, like EA has done, a lot of people in EA have done, and act like nothing's wrong with Madden, it's very short-sighted. And there's just so much that could be fixed. I will say Madden 19 was better than Madden 18. And Madden 18 was better than Madden 17. Madden 17 was better than 16.
I can guarantee Madden 25 is going to be the best one ever. I put several hours into it.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, it's one of those things, dude. Like, EA, it's kind of going in this weird direction right now. I don't know. You know what really stinks, man, is EA and Activision bought up so many companies or merged with so many companies, which is just like corporate lingo for saying, hey, we bought you out. And now they're laying people off, and you kind of wonder, maybe things were better when they were kept separate. I don't know. Yeah. I feel like we should get an expert to come on the show and talk about that. Moving on
to something I'm excited about, to get off of the depressing topic of EA. Film Club this week. My favorite movie of all time. Sorry if did you have something else in entertainment?
No. I just love how you just completely cut me off, though.
We need to stop talking about the depressing Electronic Arts.
Well, before we move on to DCD Film Club, we don't have any corrections from last week. Although I do feel the need to correct Andy and say, don't ever cut me off like that again. I'm just kidding. Oh, he left the show. Okay, guys, podcast canceled. If you're watching the video version, it's probably funnier than if you're listening to the audio version. So, but yeah, no corrections from last week. I am really excited to talk about this film, though. It was a great pick. So, Andy, lead into it.
I'm looking forward to this one the most out of any of them before.
Yeah.
Because I want to know your take on my favorite movie of all time, The Shawshank Redemption.
Mm-hmm.
It's the second time I realized after I picked this that I picked a Stephen King movie. So.
Wait, what? This is a Stephen King movie?
This is a Stephen King movie. He wrote the screenplay. Wow. And it's based off a novel called Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption, a short novella by Stephen King.
Wow.
Surprising to you, I guess. You didn't know it was by Stephen King.
So usually I do a little bit more research on the movie beforehand, before watching it. With this one, I was really scared to do that because I realized it had been out for so long. I was afraid that I would spoil the movie for myself because I literally didn't know how it would end. So
before we get into the spoilers, it's, you know, I'm just gonna say my review. It's my favorite movie of all time. It's obviously I gave it a 10 out of 10. I love it. The rewatchability is amazing. Knowing the story and then revisiting it over and over and over again, there's so many different things you pick up on after rewatching it.
Yeah. I look forward to that.
and the first time watching it, like, it's just an absolute masterpiece. I'm trying to like say without spoiling anything.
Yeah, I feel like we can talk full stop, about what the movie is. So obviously, Andy, it's his favorite movie. Ranks it 10 out of 10. I've never seen
before we get to spoilers.
No, go ahead. Let's go into it.
All right. Well, I'll let you get into a spoiler deep dive into what you thought. So, if you haven't seen the movie at this point, this is your spoiler warning. From this point on, we're gonna talk about spoilers. If you haven't seen the movie, check it out. If you don't care, continue watching. Or there's timestamps in the description. Or is it also is there an iTunes description?
It's not in the iTunes version because we have limited space on there. You can only have so many characters.
Listening to iTunes, just skip like 15 minutes ahead.
Yeah.
Or so. So here we go. There, take it away.
So, again, much like some previous weeks, I feel like we approach this film from very different viewpoints. Different perspectives, where you'd seen this movie many times before. Yeah. It's one of your favorites. It's obviously a very highly regarded movie. I've heard many people tell me that it's their favorite movie. I have never seen this movie. So this was the first time I'd ever seen it. I've never even seen clips of it or been flipping through channels and seen like 5 or 10 minutes. Never seen it at all. Heard nothing but great things. I was blown away with how much I like this movie. It is a little bit on the long side, but I think it's 2 hours and 24 minutes long, something like that. It flew right by. Right by. I was having such a blast watching it. I think it's Tim Robbins' best performance ever, and that's saying a lot coming from a guy who, one of my favorite movies of all time is Bull Durham. I think him and Kevin Costner in that movie were exceptional, as well as Susan Sarandon. But this movie, Tim Robbins, his performance is unbelievably good. I also think that, again, this is saying a lot. It might be one of Morgan Freeman's best performances of all time.
Best supporting role. I'll say that, guaranteed.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely, co-sign on that one. Love the movie. It was filmed really well. Love the score. Great story. Surprised it came from Stephen King. His stuff usually doesn't have this much depth.
Yeah.
No offense to Stephen King. Just saying, he just usually doesn't have that level of depth to his storytelling. What I really liked about this movie the most is the themes that it explored and its take on society. So this is, to me, it's not a movie. It's more of a film because I feel like it's art. Yeah. And I feel like art holds a mirror up to society. I say it all the time. And this, it blew me away with how it talks so much about our justice system, how our justice system sometimes can be incredibly flawed. I like how it talked about things like incarceration and how it can have a detrimental effect to society in terms of how we deal with criminals. The idea that they wrap up at the end, they put a real nice bow on it at the end, talking about the concept of criminal rehabilitation and how in reality it's not rehabilitating anybody. One of their friends, he was the librarian. He was an older guy. He'd been there for over 50 years. He gets out. He doesn't know what to do with himself because
he's institutionalized.
Institutionalized. And I mean, that's a huge problem, and it's a problem that we still face today. It's a difficult one to solve because there are people who do horrible things and do need to be incarcerated for extended periods of time and maybe indefinite periods of time. But I love how they explored the element of people not being able to get out and be productive citizens again after being incarcerated for so long. I thought that was really, really well done. And then finally, the one thing, it's probably a little bit of a harder one to pick up, but I felt like the warden taking financial advantage of
the most evil character in movie history.
Yeah, I mean, he's awful, right? But in a weird way, I feel like it's more relevant than ever with the privatized prisons that we have now. Like, most prisons now are not state run. They're not federally run. They're outsourced, and they're for-profit ventures. And, this was kind of a weird microcosm for that. Overall, the ending was great. I didn't expect it. I know a lot of people go into movies like this and expect a positive ending. Yeah. I wasn't expecting that, and I thought it was actually, in a weird way, I thought it was a twist.
It doesn't foreshadow to it or anything.
No, like,
it foreshadows to a different outcome.
Yeah, totally different outcome. I thought it was going to have a really dark ending. About half an hour before the movie is over, they really heavily hint at something happening, and the opposite happens. And overall,
spoiler discussion.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he was going to kill himself.
Yeah,
I thought Andy was going to kill himself in the movie and hang himself in the cell. And overall, I was blown away with how good this is. I think it's right up there with 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yeah.
I would say this is a movie that I regret not seeing sooner, and I would put it really high on my list of personal favorites. I give it a 9.5 out of 10 because I just don't think anything's perfect, but it's good, Andy. This was a great recommendation.
It's my favorite movie of all time, and I didn't know you never saw it before, which makes it even better for hopefully people out there that haven't seen it before. Even if not, it's incredible when you rewatch it. Something that other people get a takeaway from it, that you kind of mentioned how they use this, is unironically last week, Christians use this as a religious movie, and how Andy is basically Jesus, and all these people are trapped. And throughout the whole movie, he doesn't do anything for himself. He shows them, when they're at the top, tarring, he gets the beers. He doesn't want the beers. He just gets it for his people over there. And he consistently gives people hope. Where later in the film they talk about it, Morgan Freeman's like, hope will get you killed here. But he slowly gets people hope. And whenever he eventually leaves, you see everyone's brightened up. Everyone's full of hope now. I don't know. I'm not religious, but people use it as a religious film.
I could see that
take on the movie.
I could see that making that correlation.
Yeah.
I do think that that's a really strong theme throughout the movie.
The rock hammer, it's on Exodus, which
that's I didn't notice that, but that would make sense based on where they opened the Bible and saw it. I mean,
yeah.
I really liked the aspect where, like what you were talking about, the concepts of hope and freedom and what it means to people.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing that I really left with, is at the end, Morgan Freeman's character, Red, talks about, they don't really heavily, they don't hit you over the head with it, but the point is kind of made, I was out and I was on parole, but I wasn't truly free, if that makes sense. And then when he leaves, he's like, I know I'm violating my parole, but I'll actually fully be free now, Yeah. And I think that's another thing that it's still relevant today in our nation of the United States, where there are I know somebody who committed a very low level felony, did their time, got out, and that stuff still haunts them. It shows up on background checks. They can't vote. They can't own a firearm. This is someone who, in my opinion, paid their debt to society, didn't commit a violent felony. It makes you wonder, should we punish people for life for a low level,
petty crime,
white collar felony? I don't know, man. It brings up a lot of really good questions, and I really like this movie. If you are listening to this podcast right now and you have not watched it yet,
after we spoiled it all,
well, maybe you skipped ahead and you didn't listen to the spoilers, but go watch it, man. It's exceptional. The other thing that really stood out to me about this movie is it doesn't look like it's from 1994. It was done so well. it's almost like a
prison they shot
timeless
it at.
classic. What?
You can tour the prison they filmed it at.
No way. Really?
It's in Ohio.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool that.
There's a film critic on YouTube I follow. His name's Chris Stuckman.
Yeah.
In his review of this film, he did it at the actual prison.
That's kind of sweet. I like that he did that. I mean, but overall, I see why it's an American classic. This is a movie that it's hard to believe it's almost 25 years old, probably, right?
And you haven't watched it.
I feel like in
at box office.
I feel like it. Well, yeah. I mean, but I feel like they've probably made their money back, and it's not like they were looking to make a sequel either. But
it was a $25 million budget, and it grossed $28 million.
That makes me sad. You know what's crazy about it though is even though it wasn't a box office success, do you think in 25 years people will still watch this movie? Because I think they will.
Yeah,
I think it's that good.
All-time classic. It's a Citizen Kane.
Yeah. You just. I think it's so unbelievably watchable. Even 25 years later, I would say the same thing in another 25. I mean, there's still people out there watching Casablanca, so which is great, by the way.
Fun trivia fact: Stephen King loved the script so much. Stephen King's very famous for letting people pay like $1 to use his scripts or like use his books to make a movie. He's very, very lenient on people. Like he lets college students make movies. Frank Darabont, the director of this, and the guy that screenwrote it with Stephen King, or like based off Stephen King's book.
Yeah.
He paid Stephen King $1,000, $1,000 check. Stephen King never actually cashed the check, and then he mailed it back to him after the movie came out, and wrote on it, "In case you ever need bail money."
That's kind of cool.
Steven.
That's a really cool thing. So yeah, Shawshank Redemption. Check it out.
Freeman's favorite movie all the time.
It's great. How could it not be? It's a great story.
It's incredible. So now that this was Film Club number 10. Before we get to your selection, I have stack ranked all of the movies that we have so far based on their ratings. You can't see this. I have a separate little Google note of my own. So quickly go through this. The top 10 DCD Film Club movies so far. And we may go back to this after like 25. Maybe. We'll eventually go back to it. But so far, the worst movie. Do you want to go worst to best or best to worst?
Yeah, let's go worst to best.
All right. The worst movie so far is your second selection, Freddy Got Fingered. I rated it 1 out of 10. You rated it a 3 out of 10. This is both of our worst movies. We both ranked it at 10. At a consensus rating of 2 out of 10. Which isn't surprising. It's a bad film. You picked it knowing it's a bad film. Next up, we have Absence of Malice. Surprisingly not being the worst one. Even though I would have put my money on it. I rated it 3 out of 10. You put it 5.5 out of 10. And a 4.25 consensus rating. Next up, my original Stephen King pick, Gerald's Game. Consensus is rated at 6. Tied with that is Road Trip at 6 out of 10. And then The Fountain, consensus at 6.25 out of 10. Then Moneyball, and Moneyball at 7.25. They Live and A Fistful of Dollars tied at 7.5. And then huge gap. Tied for first place now, The Shawshank Redemption and 2001 Space Odyssey. At consensus rating is 9.75 out of 10.
Yeah. I mean, I look back at this list and boy, I feel like I've had more time to reflect on it, and there's a lot of good. It feels very top heavy to me. Like I feel at the beginning,
our ratings aren't really that top heavy.
Yeah, well, so when I look at it, I'm just quickly going through here, making sure that I'm not screwing anything up, because like in retrospect, I feel like we picked a lot of garbage to begin with. No offense to anybody who liked those movies.
They Live.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I have a pretty good track record if we go by the ratings. But then again, I'm trying to pick good movies.
Yeah, I try to pick movies that I felt were important to me as a person. And
Yeah,
some of the ones that I picked initially were a little bit sophomoric, but I still love those movies, but I realize they're not good movies. So if I had to stack rank them now, going back, I would put Gerald's Game dead last. I didn't really enjoy.
Can you repeat this? Sorry, you lagged heavily.
Yeah, you lagged for me too. So okay, so if I had to stack rank them, going back, yeah, I would put Gerald's Game dead last. I just did not like that movie. I would put Absence of Malice next, just because I felt like it was a little bit of a bore. And I still think to this day Colby trolled us on that one.
Oh yeah, he definitely did. By the way he talks about it.
Yeah, so thanks, Colby. I put Freddy Got Fingered next because I realize it's an awful film that I find funny, but nobody else does for the most part. Road Trip next because, again, it's just a sophomoric high school movie type deal that you go see when you're 16 and you think it's great. But, it still holds up okay. I put Moneyball next. I really liked Moneyball, but it's really hard to put...
about Moneyball today.
What's that?
Sorry to interrupt you again. I'll let you finish your point.
Well, I was just going to say, I really liked Moneyball. I know some people went back, listened to the episode, and they were like, oh, Alex didn't really seem like he was that into Moneyball. Yeah. I really liked it a lot. It's just, at the same time, like, I can't list it over these next ones, which I think is the top tier, the creme de la creme. I think after that, I have They Live, because I really love They Live, The Fountain, Fistful of Dollars. I think Fistful of Dollars is a timeless classic. People, again, another movie that people still be watching in 25 years. I had The Fountain right before then. I've been thinking about that movie a lot lately, and that's usually the sign of a good movie. And then I put Shawshank Redemption at number 2, 2001: A Space Odyssey at number 1, because obviously A Space Odyssey is a little bit more up my alley than Shawshank, but it's so hard. It's right down the middle with those two. They're so great. They're both so great. And I feel like it's very top heavy. I feel like Shawshank in 2001 stand head and shoulders above even the previous 4 movies that I listed that I think are really good.
I don't know. I think it's Shawshank 2001, obviously top. A huge fall to They Live and Fistful of Dollars and Moneyball. I'll put that in there. Road Trip's a guilty pleasure. I'll say that. And after that, it's just bad to okay.
The Fountain was really good.
I didn't really like
it. I feel like I wasn't positive enough about The Fountain last week. When I went back and I edited it, I'm like, I feel like a little bit of my Aronofsky dislike came out. I don't hate him. I just dislike some of his stuff because I feel like it's a little bit heavy-handed, but at the end of the day, I always try to tell myself that anything good when it comes to art or work in general, it stands on its own. And I feel like The Fountain definitely does that. Like it to me, it's probably the best Aronofsky film I've ever seen. And that's saying a lot because he's had some good ones. But yeah, hard to compete with Shawshank in 2001, and I hope my pick for next week will be another one that will be towards the top of this list, but we shall see. So my pick for next week, and I know that there have been some people out there who have not liked that some of our picks have not been on streaming services for free. Well, I should say included with streaming services. This one, you can stream it on Amazon Prime. So if you have Amazon Prime, you can stream this video instantly at no charge. And it's this is my favorite movie of all time, undoubtedly. And I even put it above 2001: A Space Odyssey. This movie came out in 1969. It was the first X-rated movie to ever win Best Picture at the Academy Awards. It's Midnight Cowboy, starring Jon Voight and Dustin Hoffman. As I said, it's on Amazon Prime Video. I've watched this movie so many times.
We're flipping the table.
Yeah.
I've never seen it.
Yeah, it's basically the Shawshank Redemption for me.
Yeah.
So, Midnight Cowboy came out in 1969. This one, I hope Andy doesn't hate it, but if he does, podcast canceled. Anyway, go check it out, guys. It's a great one. I hope you enjoy it. And then after that, we got fan pick. So we'll have to go through the list that we had last time and put it to a vote. So be on the lookout on Twitter. You go to @DeadChannelDuo on Twitter. We'll have a poll posted, and you can vote on the pick for that'll be number 25, right?
Episode?
So, yeah.
24?
This is 23, right? Yeah, so we're doing Midnight Cowboy in number 24, and then number 25, there's going to be a poll on Twitter. You guys can vote on it. We're just going to go off the last list that we had because we had so many suggestions last time. So, DCD Film Club out of the way. Great pick this week. Had a lot of those lately.
After this, we've basically picked banger after banger after banger. My movie, after this point, I'm not going for the creme de la creme. I'm going for more obscure things. I've said, I think, the last episode. But, I mean, they're all good movies that I'm going to pick. I'm not going to recommend anything like The Meg. But, mine are all obscure things that I'm trying to pick things that most of you haven't seen.
Well, I kind of went for that myself. Like, I know that 2001: A Space Odyssey is a really iconic film, but I will tell you this. My wife has never seen Midnight Cowboy. Andy's never seen Midnight Cowboy, and I would venture a guess that the majority of you, I think the only person I know that listens to this podcast that I know for sure has seen Midnight Cowboy is Daniel of The Reasons I'm Broke. That's it. Maybe Bobby.
As I'm going back to my selections, my next one may be a bit of a popular one. But after that,
you know, it's funny you mentioned The Meg, because every time I go to Best Buy,
4K Blu-ray,
I always go to the 4K Blu-ray section, because you know I've been on a 4K Blu-ray kick. I've been trying to expand that digital movie collection, right? And I love the physical media too. So anyway,
try out Blu-ray.com. Where you can look at future release dates for Blu-rays as they come out. I'm
going to have to do that. But anyway, every time I go to the 4K Blu-ray section, they have, I guess they over-ordered it, tons and tons and tons.
Not selling. It's an awful movie.
They have tons of copies of The Meg. And I always think of you. But they'll never mark it down. If it was like $14.99, I might just get it.
Disney movies don't get marked down.
Is it a Disney movie?
Never get... no. But I'm saying, like Disney doesn't mark down their movies, especially like the animated classics or the Avengers, because they know people are gonna pay that $35 for an Avengers movie.
See, I'll never go over $24.99. Generally speaking, I'll never go over $24.99. I got 2001 at $24.99. I probably would have paid $30 for that, because the packaging that they did for the 4K remaster was exceptional. Like, you get a little art book, you get some photos from the set.
Oh, I also recommend Criterion collections. Those are pretty. They're more obscure films. They do more of like artsy fartsy movies.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, those are great. Right. Those are great. I won't buy a physical copy of a movie now. Yeah, I don't buy the physical copies that don't have a digital version now, because I realize that's the way everything's going, and it is also pretty convenient for me and my wife. So, moving on from DCD Film Club, going into sports.
Shazam? No, I'm kidding. All right, going to sports.
Let's talk about the AAF folding.
The Alliance of American Football. I was going to wear my Memphis Express. I'm a lifelong Memphis Express fan. But someone got busy, and we have to record this a day later. I feel really, speaking more cuts, by the way, going back to the EA, I feel really bad for like the guy that played for I don't remember which team he played for, but he's like a broken arm and he doesn't have insurance, and they kicked him out of his apartment because his team owned the apartment.
Ouch.
and there's like a whole bunch of people losing their jobs. Like the Memphis Express players, my team, all had to pay like $2,500 hotel fees. And on the other end of it, which I think is pretty funny, the reason, do you know why it shut down?
But the AAF?
Yeah.
I don't think that they really had it was a lot of finger pointing.
No, there's a guarantee. So the reason it shut down is they were in a bunch of financial trouble earlier in the season after week 1. So the Carolina Hurricanes owner invested $70 million into the company, becoming a majority stakeholder.
Yeah.
And he shut it down because the only reason he invested was to get they have a gambling app apparently associated with the Alliance of American Football. He got the rights to the gambling app and shut down the whole league.
I heard as earlier or as recently as today that he doesn't have the rights to that now.
Oh, well, I mean, that's what apparently when it came out, that's why it shut down.
It's so weird, man, because there's just so much finger pointing and nobody knows who to believe because Bill Polian and Ebersol, they're not really, they have a different story than what the Carolina Hurricanes owner has and the players and the coaches.
Yeah.
They've all got different versions of what happened.
A lot of higher ups in the company, like they'd be asked like a week ago before it shut down, what's going on, and they'd be like, I don't know. Everyone was in the dark.
It was just very poorly run. Yeah, and I mean,
does this get you scared for the XFL?
No, there's a difference. So with me, like my BS meter was going off the charts when this guy committed to putting in $250 million, $250 million total. He committed to putting in.
It's currently $70 million.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's how much he lost, right?
Oh.
So basically they burned through $70 million in cash in a little bit over a month. Yeah. And they don't really have a whole lot to show for it. The league is obviously done. He's pulled out his money. I get why. I think, honestly, the thing that you mentioned about the gambling technology and that patent might have been something that was in his crosshairs, and once he realized that wasn't something that he would have access to, he pulled the plug on the whole operation. I also think that it could have been a power play. I think that there's an option where, you know, or a possibility that he did that, was hoping that he could turn it into a good investment, and then he realized once he actually got in there that things weren't being run very well, and he burnt through $70 million in cash and just wanted to stop the hemorrhaging. Another theory that was kind of kicking around in my head this week was, what if he purposely sabotaged it? What if he did that to kind of help out the NFL? I mean, I'm just spitballing here. I'm just freestyling. I don't really have any.
AAF playoffs ran into the NHL playoffs.
I mean, there you go. I mean, I feel like sometimes these things look like corporate sabotage to me. I don't know. I could be, again, I'm just freestyling. Just bear with me on that. But it was just something that, as I was taking an Uber home yesterday from work, I was thinking, like, this guy already owns an NHL franchise. He probably rubs elbows with a lot of NFL team owners. Like, is it really out of the realm of possibility that he went in there wanting to screw it up?
Paid under the table to shut it down.
You never know. I mean,
what if all 30 owners paid him, like, he allegedly lost $70 million. What if all 30 owners can give him $2.5 million or whatever?
Yeah. I mean, so it's just something that, because to me, it was really reminiscent of when WCW was in trouble. Turner Broadcasting was basically becoming AOL Time Warner, and one of the worst mergers in business history ever. They wanted to kill WCW. They wanted to get rid of it, so they were trying to sell it. Eric Bischoff had a deal in place. They had a handshake agreement on TV rights. And allegedly, there is one person in WCW who is higher up who works for Vince McMahon currently and kind of low-key sabotaged the deal. And then Vince McMahon comes in and bought that company for nothing. Pennies on the dollar. Yeah. And to this day, people think it's corporate sabotage what happened there. So I think that's something that definitely happens. It might have been the case here, but again, now as far as the XFL goes, talking about WWE, I think the difference here is the primary investor is the guy who believes in it the most, believes in it so much to bring it back after, I think, 18, 19 years after it originally failed. Yeah. Vince McMahon is bringing this back. He believes in the idea that much. He spun off. He trademarked a new company, so it's under a different umbrella. And you know he has mountains and mountains of cash to get this thing up and running. So if there's one guy who's hard-headed enough that would have burnt through that $250 million and more to get a football league off the ground, it's Vince McMahon.
But what if, to play devil's advocate, what if us people don't want spring football? Because ratings weren't good for AAF.
No.
What if people get enough out of college football and NFL, and then you have combine and NFL draft, and then free agency? People just get their hook.
It's fair. It's a fair point. I would just say this. I feel like there is a need for more football.
The difference between the AAF and the XFL, I feel, though, is XFL's letting college players come in. Instead of going to college, you can go to the XFL, like a G League situation with the NBA currently, where you can, instead of going to college, you can go to the G League, make some money.
I think the biggest thing is there's, how can I put this in an intelligent way? So there's two types of football fans. There's casual fans, and then there's like the hardcore fans. And to me, the biggest differentiator for casual fans and hardcore fans is like there's the people who watch just the games that are on their local TV. Maybe they watch two games a week, right? And then there's the guys like me who have Sunday ticket, try to watch every single game. Like I have a big screen and I have it on Game Mix. I'm flipping around constantly from game to game to game to game.
That watches the Super Bowl and doesn't watch the commercials or the halftime show.
I mean, there you go. Yeah.
Bores me.
So like
the Super Bowl is the worst game of the year.
So those fans like me, I think it's important for me to realize I'm the minority. Yeah. Most people watching NFL are not me. They don't care about the Buffalo-Arizona game going on. I do. I watch it all. Yeah. I try to. I will go back and rewatch games if I missed a lot of the action because DirecTV has some great options to do that.
If you have the NFL package, you can watch condensed games where it takes about like an hour to get through it.
They call them cuts, NFL cuts or something. DirecTV, not sponsored by DirecTV, by the way, but you could inbox us if you want to sponsor podcast DirecTV. But anyway,
it might be called condensed games. I apologize.
Well, NFL does it too with DirecTV. They cut everything from whistle to whistle, if that makes sense. And then
posts it on YouTube though, which is cool.
That is pretty cool. So like overall, I realize that I'm in the minority, and I think that minority is who would watch. The problem with the AAF is it didn't get the casual people because most people don't know any of the players. And I think that's kind of what interests people more. Especially younger people. I've noticed a lot of younger sports fans follow players more than teams, which is fine. But I mean, if you don't know anybody in the AAF, why would you care?
I can kind of get that because 2 years ago, I didn't care about college basketball. I liked the NBA, but I didn't really get into it.
Mm-hmm.
But then I sat down and started watching. I've just like fallen in love with basketball this like past year.
Yeah. So I mean, like, there are people like you who'll get into it anyway, but I just think my mom watches the Dolphins every Sunday. And she'll watch the Bucks game after that if it's not on or whatever. So my mom watches about 2 football games a week, and she watches Florida State every Saturday. She didn't. I bet if I asked her about the AAF, she'd say, "What?"
Yeah, I can't fathom the amount of games I watch in a week.
You gotta, until a football league can get out there and get the people like my mom to watch, I just don't see it working.
Yeah.
There just isn't enough money in it.
My football schedule is Thursday to Monday. Thursday night football, you got Friday night college football. Saturday, all Saturday. Then Sunday, all day. And then Monday night football. You'll have some Monday football college games that come over sometimes.
I always tell people that the NFL regular season is my favorite 17 Sundays of the year. I have the Sunday ticket on from 1 p.m. all the way up until Sunday night football. And it's just all I do. I just sit around all day and watch football. It's great.
I have an opinion about Sunday night football. I hate it. I don't like Sunday night football.
I don't really...
Games are genuinely boring.
I don't really like the primetime games that much. I'm okay with Sunday night football. I'm okay with Monday night football. I realize that
Thursday's bad.
Thursdays are the pits.
Sunday night's pretty bad. Monday has okay games, but then you have like the best game of the year. It usually happens on Monday Night Football. Besides, this past year happened on Sunday Night Football, the Chiefs-Rams game.
Sunday Night Football used to be really bad. Like when ESPN was running it, I'm talking early 2000s, the matchups they would put on Sunday Night Football were awful. So like when they moved it to NBC, the quality of play got better. I also like that the NFL would flex the scheduling to try and get better matchups on Sunday night and Monday Night Football. So really good move there.
Of ESPN
doing
dumb things. They decided to cut Dwayne Wade's last home game off the ESPN schedule and replace it with a Celtics-Wizards game that isn't going to matter.
That's...
As you see here, I love D-Wade.
I'm not a huge D-Wade fan, but I think that's a more relevant game to me.
Yeah. And they also did that with Kobe's 60-pointer.
Yeah, that was actually kind of a fun game to watch just because they let Kobe do whatever he wanted. So, AAF, rest in peace. It was a fun 7 weeks. But, nothing lasts forever, I guess, Andy. Before we wrap up, we got more start-sit cuts.
Oh, I also have some trivia for you on top of that. I didn't want to put anything.
Oh, yeah, let's do that.
On the top.
A little trivia.
Let me pull up my notes again because I put them away. So I have 3 questions. The first 2 are factual based, aka they have a direct answer. And the last one is the start-sit cut for the fun because I think you liked it last week. So I brought a new one to the table.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one, something I found out this week, which is an insane stat. How many head coaches have the Pittsburgh Steelers had since 1969?
4.
Ooh, it's 3.
Ooh.
Which the modern era in NFL, people fire coaches all the time. That's insane. What you can argue the most successful franchise in all of NFL history.
I want to say in the last 20 years, it's just 2, right? I mean, it's just Cowher and Tomlin.
Yeah.
Rightfully so. Mike Tomlin is I don't care what anybody says about Mike Tomlin. He's one of, if not the best coaches in the NFL right now.
They run their team different than other teams, and they're one of the most successful teams.
Yeah, I like Tomlin a lot. Anybody that ever talks about firing him, I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about.
Speaking about a successfully ran team, I have a basketball question.
Mm-hmm.
How many years in a row have the San Antonio Spurs made the playoffs?
Trying to think of when Duncan was drafted. I want to say it was
insane.
I want to say Duncan got drafted in 97.
I was born the year he was drafted. I'm pretty sure.
I'm going to say they've made the playoffs every year since 97, which would make it 22 straight seasons.
And you'll be correct.
So I remember this as a kid. David Robinson got
Duncan. You're right.
David Robinson got hurt. Yeah. And he was ready to come back. And this was when David Robinson was in his prime. I want to say the year before that, he won the scoring title. Maybe not the scoring title, but he was up there, and then he also won the rebounding.
He dropped like, it was like some like 67 points.
Yeah.
In the last game to clinch the scoring title.
Yeah, he beat Shaq. Shaq was going to get the scoring title, and then Robinson just put up some nasty game at the end of the season. So David Robinson was like literally in his prime, in my opinion. He got hurt, and he was able to come back, and they were kind of like, no, David, just stay out. There's a kid coming out of Wake Forest, and the Spurs ended up getting that first overall pick when I believe the Boston Celtics had the best odds that year to get that pick. I could be wrong. I just remember a lot of Celtics fans being upset.
That was Rick Pitino's Boston Celtics.
Yeah.
Which they drafted Chauncey Billups
and traded him in the first year. Yeah. Rick Pitino.
Hall of Famer Chauncey Billups. That's an insane draft class. Tracy McGrady's in there.
Yep. It's a good draft, man. It's a good draft. I mean, Tim Duncan was generational talent. He was a 4-year college player.
Yeah.
So when he came into the NBA, he had an NBA body. Unlike a lot of the kids today who don't have an NBA-ready body, and he was also a very polished player. I'm not saying that Tim Duncan as a one-and-done player, probably, almost undoubtedly.
I don't. There's no one you can argue to change my mind.
No, I don't. I can't really think of anybody. I have a high level of respect for Tim Duncan. I know somebody would be out there like, he could have come out after 1 year and he would have been great. He would have been
back then?
He would have not really. I mean, because T-Mac came straight out of high school that year.
Yeah.
But I mean, there were very few players that.
I don't think, like, if you were one and done, you just came out of high school.
Exactly. But like, my point is this, man. Like, what I liked about Duncan and what I liked about that generation of basketball is a lot of guys did come out after 4 years and were elite players, and they had a tremendous level of polish to their game. And yeah, I mean, ever since they got Duncan, I don't think they ever missed the playoffs. And then even after Duncan's retired, they've done a good job of replenishing that roster.
Greg Popovich, the greatest coach of all time.
Greg Popovich he's going to go down as one of the best, if not the best.
Like, same thing with Tim Duncan. There's another argument you can make. This Coach K. But at the NBA level, Greg Popovich is the greatest of all time.
Probably.
But as basketball coach, you can bring in Coach K as the argument.
Probably. I would say that Greg Popovich is one of the best basketball minds of all time. Because not only was he a coach, but he's heavily involved in their front office decisions.
He's also brought in the first female head coach ever.
Yeah, very forward-thinking guy. Very outside of the box methodology.
She was like offered like head coaching job, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And she was like, I'd rather stay under Greg Popovich and learn.
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. No reason to rush. Like, you know, the offers will be there, you know?
Yeah.
So in a weird way, you wanna bide your time, because there have been guys who came off of that Popovich coaching tree that took the first opportunity. The one that just springs to mind for me is Jacques Vaughn. Jacques Vaughn, I think, will be a very good NBA head coach at some point. But he took the first opportunity and got hired by the Magic right after they traded Dwight Howard. And I know for a fact,
rest in peace.
Because I was and I still am, a big Magic fan. I was a season ticket holder that year, and that team was atrociously bad. So there wasn't a coach in the world that could have saved that dumpster fire. Anyway.
All right. Third question.
Yeah.
My start, sit, cut.
Okay.
This one is different from the last one. This is start, sit, cut in their prime.
Okay.
So these players in their prime, they all are kind of like correlated in this 2000s to 10s or the naughties and the tens is how people call them.
Mm-hmm.
So in their prime, Drew Brees, Ben Roethlisberger, or Phillip Rivers.
Oh, I'm going to get so much hate. So this one to me is very easy. Start Breeze, sit Rivers, cut Roethlisberger.
Yeah, we don't want a rapist on the squad.
No.
You know, I'll try to think of a harder one. It's hard to do.
It's fair. That's fair. My hard drive is running out of space as we speak. This is very concerning to me.
All right, then we'll cut the show here.
Well, we're gonna cut it a little short. Real quick, want to mention T-shirt link in the description. You can buy T-shirt, help out the podcast. We make $6 every time you do that. We're on iTunes if you're watching the video version of the podcast. If you're listening to the audio-only version, there is a video version on YouTube that you can check out as well. And I'm going to cut my self-promotion short there because, like I said, we were quickly running out of time just due to hard drive space, and I apologize for that. I didn't expect the podcast to go this long, but we talked a lot about Shawshank Redemption. It's great. Andy.
Bruins clinch playing Toronto in the playoffs.
Yep.
And then if we play Toronto, play Tampa Bay, it's going to be a tough road. Literally 3 Stanley Cup contenders in the first 2 rounds playing each other because the NHL playoff seeding sucks. Celtics, go for it. Red Sox suck. 2 wins, getting demolished by most teams. Starting pitching's awful. Bullpen's awful. And I want to make a shout out to Russell Westbrook, 2020-21 game. Second time ever happened in NBA history. And he clinched his 3rd straight season averaging a triple-double. Shout out to Russell Westbrook.
Boy, what an accomplishment. Good for him.
He did it for Nipsey Hussle. Rest in peace.
Yeah, rest in peace.
He called his shot before the game that he was going to do 2020-20. And they tried to pull him out before the end of the game. And he said, no, I'm getting this 2020-20. And he did it.
It's just so jacked up what happened to that rapper. But I don't know, man. I hope they did catch the guy supposedly who allegedly did it. So, I mean, at least that's...
Before he got murdered.
Yeah, but I wish they would have caught him beforehand. Anyway.
Episode 23.
Yep, that's 23. We'll see you next week. Leave us a review on iTunes. We'll give you a shout out. But thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week. Anything else to say, Andy? Maybe you want to say bye really loud?
Bye. Bye. Bye.